Today on Locked On Rockies, outslugged by the Padres, and Daniel Bard's issues continue. Breaking down this series on Locked On Rockies.
You are Locked On Rockies, your daily Colorado Rockies podcast. Part of the Locked On Podcast Network, your team every day.
Rock on Rockies fans, welcome into the Locked On Rockies podcast for today, the second day of August in the year 2023. I almost said 2022, flashing back there, but nope, it's 2023. We are here on the Locked On Rockies podcast, bringing you your daily Colorado Rockies talk right here on the Locked On Podcast Network, where you can find your team every day. And if your team is the Colorado Rockies, well, guess what? You're in the right spot, because that's what we do around here each and every day. We bring in your daily Colorado Rockies talk, breaking down all your series and all sorts of fun stuff here about the Rockies. I'm Paul Holden, your Rockies fan extraordinaire, bringing you your daily Colorado Rockies podcast. You can find us free and streaming on your favorite streaming service. You can also find us on SiriusXM and the SiriusXM app. Alongside all your play-by-play coverage, you can just search Locked On Rockies or Colorado Rockies, and you will be set. Thank you for making us your first listen of the day. Today on Locked On Rockies, we are talking about a bummer of a series against San Diego, especially when it comes to the long balls given up. And again, kind of another bad luck start for Kyle Freeland, but it's that pitch selection, it's the home run issues, it's the lack of home runs being hit and the home runs allowed by the Rockies that continue to be a problem this year. Highlighted again there in the ninth, spoiler alert, recording currently in the top of the ninth of today's ball game against the Padres. I'm watching it live, so in case anything happens and I need to do a revert of the episode, I'll make sure to address it as such. But the long ball, an issue for the Rockies, and the Rockies basically offense completely stifled in game number 3 here in the finale against the Padres. We'll also talk about how we are getting in these past 2 games, or at least especially this game. I can't actually quite remember if Rogers played second base last night. I don't remember. But today's game, we at least got our first look at the potential infield for the Rockies going forward. So we'll talk about all of that here today on Locked On Rockies. Before we dive into all that, just want to say that today's episode is brought to you by Sleeper. Swing for the fences on Sleeper Picks, and you could win up to 100 times your money. Download the Sleeper app and use promo code LOCKEDON, and you'll get up to a $100 match on your first deposit. Terms and conditions do apply. See Sleeper's term of use for details. Currently operational in 30 states. Check out Sleeper today. The Rockies' offense was basically asleep here, and looks like they can't get out of this 9th inning without more damage. It's the big problem, especially in this game. It's amazing how many home runs have been hit in this series and how many home runs were hit today. Not by Rockies players, mind you, but this, I think it has to speak to, I don't know if it's command issues. I don't know if it's control. I don't know if it's game management. If you were watching the broadcast here today, you kind of heard about how Spilly was happy with the way Freeland was navigating and managing the game, basically. But there's something amiss when the Rockies are so prone to giving up home runs. And it was interesting to hear how, I didn't really realize how low Kyle Freeland's velocity was and how much of a factor that might play into the issues that he's seen this year at some points, especially when giving up the long ball. But I'm wondering if there needs to be, I don't know what it is. I mean, again, is it coaching? Is it just overall talent? Because just in this game alone, here in game number 3, 1, 2, 3, 4. I think that we had 5 home runs that were hit. And now the Rockies are also giving up another run here in a nightmarish top of the 9th that continues. Let me double check here. 1, 2, 3, 4. I thought Sanchez hit 2 home runs in this game. Yeah, anyway, 4 home runs or 5 home runs. And this is all coming at a time where the Rockies are being out-hit by a ton. I mean, by an absolute gobsmacking amount here. It's 12-3. And this isn't, the big issues, and especially as we're starting to kind of get our ideas of this lineup, is this offense. I mean, the Kyle Freeland kept them in this ball game for the majority of the time, even giving up the home runs. Certainly, it's the only thing he gave up, really. And he was able to have, 6 strikeouts in this ball game here? Let me double check here. 6 strikeouts, 1 walk, 7 hits, 4 earned. And they're all home runs. It's so strange that it just seems like the Freeland especially just giving up the big-time home run. And it doesn't help the fact that, Gary Sanchez did hit 2, so 5 home runs in this game. It's just so strange to me. Because I don't, it's got to just, I mean, the Rockies just have to be missing spots constantly, I think. I mean, maybe I don't know where you pin the blame on that. Man, this has just been a terrible top of the ninth. I'm sorry, I keep getting so distracted. This is what happens when I watch a game live. The Rockies had this, man, this is the nightmare. When you have this situation, I mean, this is just terrible. I must have super jinxed the Rockies there when I said the Padres were forever cursed in Colorado with the way they lost that first one, but they're hanging up now a 7 spot in the top of the ninth. I mean, it's maybe this is a get right series for the Padres, but it's a big. This has to get addressed. It can't just simply be sitting there. There needs. I just don't know what the type of adjustment has to be, because it's just, you look at this and it's just so maddening to see the Rockies' offense so outmatched, but teams so able to take advantage and exploit the Rockies' weaknesses and bad pitches and mistakes. And maybe that's, the Rockies skewing younger, the Rockies skewing with rookies now and going through the rest of the season. That'll be an issue. But this was an issue far before the Rockies fully enlisted in that. And this is an issue that's going to continue to be a problem when you're getting blown out like the Rockies have been getting blown out at home at some points in this season. Today and yesterday's game wasn't pretty either, if I recall correctly. 8-5, the Rockies did put up a little bit of a fight. But again, issues late for the Rockies. You're not going to come back down against a team like the Padres if they're hanging crooked numbers on you late. And what's crazy about this too, and the main issues in this series, is as in yesterday's ball game, they scored 3 runs in the 8th and the 9th, the Padres, and then all the runs they scored tonight. The Padres were the worst team after the worst batting team after the 7th inning in all of baseball. That's what they were saying this whole time. I mean, this is a complete outlier. And it's highlighted by a big issue that the Rockies are facing, and that's Daniel Bard. We're going to have to talk about that coming up here in segment number 2. Before we do that, though, got to tell you about our friends at Sleeper. And if you were going on Sleeper and you were going to hit going all Padres and going home runs today, feeling like they were going to have the breakout party, well, you would have been able to cash out with that 100 times payout. But hey, maybe you think that tomorrow Brendan Rodgers is going to hit a home run, his first of the season. Well, you can check it all out on Sleeper, and all you have to do is choose 2 or more players that you would like to select and choose some statistical categories: hitting home runs, strikeouts, hits, more, RBI, all type of stuff. And then you can put it all up, and if you hit it, you're going to win. This is how, if you're looking on the YouTube channel, you can see how it works. You got a play slip here. And like we said, choose some statistical categories. Maybe you think Ohtani's going to go yard. Maybe you think Elly De La Cruz is going to steal a base. You can put it all together in your slip here and get up to 100 times your initial deposit right now at Sleeper. Use promo code LOCKEDON and you'll get a $100 match on your first deposit. Terms and conditions do apply. You can see Sleeper's terms of use for details. It's currently operational in over 30 states. So check out Sleeper today. Don't miss out on getting that 100 times payout with Sleeper. Go to sleeper.com and use that promo code LOCKEDON. This is the Locked On Rockies podcast. We're free and streaming on your favorite streaming service, bringing you your daily Colorado Rockies talk right here on the Locked On Podcast Network and the Locked On Rockies YouTube channel. Be part of the show. And subscribe to Locked On Rockies. Let us know your comments, your concerns, your thoughts about the Rockies in the chat when we're live and in the comments when we post the videos there. Unfortunately for the Rockies, they suffered another Daniel Bard tough go. Unfortunately, Bard has he still is capable of doing things, but we're talking location. We're talking issues. We're talking what is the deal with some of these Rockies arms and things of that nature. And Daniel Bard has to be at the top of that list of concern, especially when you look at the fact that in his last, let's get his last 3 appearances here for the Rocks. He's had 3 appearances and he's only mustered 2 innings in that time. This is the first time now in 3 of his last 4 appearances, he hasn't even made it a full inning for the Rockies. He hasn't been able to get out of this. This is his second appearance now in his last 4 where he's allowed 4 earned runs. He's had a lot of walks in those situations. He's had a lot of issues, and it's really concerning. I mean, it highlights the issues and how difficult it is to get consistency and a lot of long-term effectiveness from your bullpen. It just seems like he's again at another spot where he just doesn't seem like he's just doesn't. It's a complete flip from when he's locked in. You know, like when you see Bard and he's on a roll and when he's doing his thing, he is someone that has great control of the zone. He's someone that can have a strikeout, but unfortunately this season it just has not panned out, especially when it comes to the walks. The biggest issue for Daniel Bard, of course, this year is the walks, and then the long ball being a problem as well for him. He's now walked more batters than he struck out this year. He's the long ball hasn't been too much of a factor, mostly of late when you're looking at it here. He's given up only 2 on the season so far, 3 now once this updates here. And they're just so damaging, though. It's that deadly combo that the Rockies pitching has had to deal with, and Kyle Freeland was this too. Not a lot of run support, not a lot of backup from the offensive side of the ball, and then digging yourself into deep holes early and getting yourself into trouble. I mean, the walks are a huge issue. Bard has now gone 3 straight appearances with a walk. Let me double check about the stats for today. I believe he had more in this one. Yeah, so actually make that 4 straight appearances now with at least 1 walk. And he's also the good thing is he navigates enough. Hopefully, when we see this, we see the pattern continue of Daniel Bard, at least in those appearances. Has a nice little solid stretch, gets roughed up by Washington, bounces back a little bit, still wasn't able to do much and get out of the inning last night or in Monday's game there, and the Rockies were able to hold on and 2 walks in that one. So a little sloppy and concerned there. And then there's this one where it's the step back. Hopefully these continue to be more few and far in between for Daniel Bard, and he can continue to kind of piece together these solid stretches. But it's concerning. I'm my concern for Daniel Bard is I just wonder how much. I know he's battling. How much is that battle from the beginning and the WBC and everything continued throughout this year and from the stint there? I just want to know what that. I want to know more of what that's like. But you can't pin it just solely on Bard. I think a big issue in this game of late, especially in the finale against San Diego, it's that offense is part of it. And when you're looking at his last in the last now 6 appearances for Daniel Bard, the Rockies have won 4 of those 6 games that Daniel Bard has at least been a factor of. Maybe he hasn't always contributed to being the big winner in that situation, but a solid inning of work there against Oakland in that shutout win. helpful with a couple of good innings of work against Miami. In Miami, a historically tough place to play for the Rockies. So Bard's quality is still there. It's just unfortunate that when Bard stumbles, it seems to be a stumble that has just massive consequences. You know, I mean, this was a game that was close going into the top of the ninth. But unfortunately in this one, plunked there by Brennan Doyle. That is hit on the pad. Whew. Sigh of relief there. Rockies maybe looking to make a little bit of noise, making things a little bit of a hassle here in the bottom of the ninth. But so while I have concern about Daniel Bard, and I think it's earned concern. When it's bad, it's bad. But more often than not, Bardo's okay. Bardo's still solid. I think Bard's is still someone that I think is going to help the Rockies win some ball games this year, and is a good piece to still have and turn to. It's just when he struggles mightily, and that's and I don't know if that's all on him. Or where, and like I said, I think the Rockies' offense is just as much to blame here for the pitching in this one. I mean, this is a team that got nothing going on and had, and Kyle Freeland was keeping them in there. But I don't know. Maybe I'm over. I think maybe now I'm talking it out. Now I'm breaking it down. I'm going through it. Maybe I'm a little overreactive here so far to Daniel Bard in this stage, especially when you really are looking at the numbers. It's just those glaring issues. It's just those things that come up and impact the way what you see about Bard. Because you go back even further since the All-Star break here. 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7. Wait, let me just 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8, 9. Okay. We're going to get it. We got a 10-game sample size here now for Bard since the All-Star break. And we're just right before the All-Star break because I think this will count with that game against San Francisco. The Rockies have won 8 of those 10 ball games. I mean, and in those times, and when he hasn't been able to, he's gone in those 10 ball games. There's only the 2 games he hasn't been able to get the full innings worth of work. And the walk issues have really just been a glimpse of late. He had a nice solid stretch there when you're looking in terms of walks that he wasn't walking much of anybody there versus the Yankees and Houston, going even further back before that. The walk issues have just seemed to kind of tick back up and of late. So there should be moments for Bard to be able to make some adjustments and still be able to do what he's doing, because his ERA is going to go above 3 after this game, but still some solid numbers across the board there, and still some maybe we don't need to be so worried about Daniel Bard. It's just been the recent stuff that has been it just makes you raise your eyebrow here. So not so much concern as we are, let's see what happens now and hope that this one was an anomaly, as the Rockies do officially lose this ball game now as the game has ended there. But so breaking down Daniel Bard, talking about the home run issues, let's talk a little bit about the a positive thing from this series here. Even though the Rockies dropped 2 of 3 to San Diego at home, we got our first look at this new Rockies infield, and there's things to be encouraged about. Let's talk about that coming up in segment number 2. This is the Locked On Rockies podcast for free and streaming on your favorite streaming service. You can find us on the SiriusXM app and SiriusXM. Just search Locked On Rockies or Colorado Rockies for all your play-by-play action for the Rockies and all your Locked On Rockies fun. Thank you for making us your first listen of the day, and thank you for subscribing to the Locked On Rockies YouTube channel. You're helping this show grow. You're doing a lot of great stuff. I thank you, the fan, for doing all that great work and helping us out here on the show. It's much, much appreciated. And I know y'all are tuning in. Great comments lately as well. Maybe we'll do some YouTube comment reaction here soon on the show. But one thing to be encouraged about, or at least something that you can start looking forward to when you're looking at things to watch as this season goes on here in the second half, is there's your 2024 infield right there. More likely than not, I mean, that is what your infield is going to look in that situation. Tolia might come play some first base, while Montero will dip into that DH position. I think that's certainly something that can be happening. But there wasn't a lot of things to watch necessarily from it. But the big takeaway from this is the return of Brendan Rodgers and what that's going to mean, and getting these guys reps together. I think Montero, if we're continuing to turn and give him at bats, is going to be able to start getting in a little bit of a groove and start swinging and hitting things a little bit better. And I think that's going to come with him knowing that he has a cemented spot in this lineup to at least figure it out and try. I think as things move forward, I will see Tolia play more first base, and Montero Montero dip into that DH spot. I mean, Tolia the reads weren't great in right field on some of that, but regardless, the Rockies have a lot of gold potential in that infield, and it's nice that we're going to be able to get an extended look at the possibilities of what that is. And I think it's especially important for Brendan Rodgers. Even though this season is a wash and we're not going to get much, and Brendan Rodgers' injury history has already been tough, him building and recovering and being able to have a significant amount of time in the season, at least 2 months worth of ball, is going to help him be better in the offseason and help him be better prepared for next season, and better help the relationship between Ezequiel Tovar to help shore up the middle of the infield. I don't think necessarily Tovar needs too much shoring up there with guys, but the two of them together is one of my top things to be excited about to watch for the rest of 2023. On top of Ryan McMahon there, I think the defense of the Colorado Rockies, we highlighted it yesterday on the show, is going to be something that's entertaining to watch. I think the Rockies, with the way their pitchers work, with everything, have crafted a really, really nice defensive infield. I just would like to see more from offense from all of them, especially as we continue to ride the Ryan McMahon roller coaster, navigate the season with Ezequiel Tovar as he continues to be a young guy figuring out. Montero and Tolia both trying to adjust to major league pitching and be as impactful as they hope to be, especially on Montero's side. But above all, I think it is something to consider and factor in that Brendan Rodgers is going to play more games than we thought this year and get a good considerable amount of time with his new shortstop. If the Rockies are going to continue to stick with Brendan Rodgers for the future, which I think so. I don't necessarily think you can sit there and say confidently that Harold Castro and Alan Trejo are surefire better replacements. They might be more available if Rodgers' health issues continue. But overall, the Rockies, especially the Rockies infield, is probably at its best right now. I mean, even with Rodgers coming and not having a ton of time, that is the best possible Rockies infield that you can have right now at the roster. You have 3 potential Gold Glovers, and I know Tovar might not be there this year, but Tovar's going to be in the running one of these days for sure. Highlighted by the fact that you have a really great defensive center fielder that is really changing the game. And had another big play today. Tovar made a gorgeous running catch there into the outfield as well. That's going to help the Rockies. It certainly is. And if the Rockies had this infield to start the season, I think you see them break up and they're break up those early season struggles and not get out to as rough of a start, because one of the biggest issues for the Rockies was infield defense and defense in general to start the season, but the Rockies have gotten better and better. Now, on top of all of this, it's great to see the defense. It's good to be encouraged. I'm glad to see this. Offense, though, is now going to be the biggest next step. I'd really like to see the Rockies. It would be a good sign for the Rockies if everyone has successful second halves offensively, because they have the really tough schedule against tough competition, against teams that are going to be fighting and in the playoff hunt more often than not. If they can adjust, if they can adjust, and if they can make it happen, just like Rodgers showed last year, then that's encouraging. I just don't necessarily know how excited you will get as a Rockies fan breaking down or looking at all of this year, but it is really, really encouraging that we're getting as much of a look at this infield that we're getting this year. as we're continuing to look ahead and look towards the future and look what's going to work, figuring out the Montero Tolia situation and letting these guys play together is a win. And I'm hoping that if Rogers can swing the bat like we know he can, it should add a little bit more depth and length into this lineup that the Rockies need, especially without Grichuk and Cronin there now, who were contributors and people that generated offense for them. I mean, top to bottom, it's not just the infield. The Rockies need to be a much better offensive team, and it needs to be headlined by this infield, because the big storylines, the grabbing attention, the big impact, the I don't know, star potential, if you want to call it, for the Rockies is in the infield. I don't know necessarily. I mean, Nolan Jones might be the exception there. When I'm just talking about people that can contribute on both sides of the ball, most likely it's going to come from these infield players. So I'd love to see an increase in offense from all of them, not just all the Rockies, but especially from this infield. And I'd love to see Rogers get as many opportunities and have some success against a tough schedule. I mean, this is a good little challenge for Rogers, who all of it helps prepare for next year, and I think Rogers will be better for it, taking part in this season and getting as many games as he will. But Rockies unable to defeat the dreaded San Diego Padres. The Padres come back and kind of lay the thump on the Rockies there, especially in the finale of that game. It's just a big old wet fart, honestly. That's the best way to describe those last two games. The Rockies certainly had opportunities. The Rockies certainly did not help out Kyle Freeland yet again. I didn't hear it fully, but it sounded like Freeland's run support during games is very poor. And I was hoping I could get the stat from Spilly when he said it, but it was a little too quiet, so I didn't. But that's not too surprising. I mean, there were a lot of issues in these last two series, and especially these last two games. Rockies just weren't able to come up big in certain situations. A couple of flashes in the pan, but unfortunate that some of the pitching performances just weren't up to snuff, and then things just got out of hand in Corsi there at the end of that finale. But we look ahead. The Rockies play the Cardinals coming up next. We'll be breaking it all down. We'll be talking all things Rockies right here on the Locked On Rockies podcast, your home for Colorado Rockies baseball coverage on the Locked On Podcast Network. Thank you for making us your first listen of the day. We're free and streaming on your favorite streaming service. Folks, until next time, this is Paul Holden saying so long from the Locked On Rockies podcast.